It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
G'day everyone, welcome back once again to our FIFA World Cup 2022 daily live streams on the Trademate Sports Betting Podcast. Today we will be previewing tomorrow's group games once again. We've got Germany versus Japan, Morocco versus Croatia, Spain versus Costa Rica, and Belgium versus Canada. As always, please send through any questions, comments, thoughts you have throughout the stream, and we will get to them. As very quiet on the comments yesterday, so please don't be shy. Send through your opinions, any bets you've had already, and we will read them out on the stream. As you can see, top right of your corner, we have, after a little sabbatical yesterday, Pro Sports Bettor Neel Shah. How are you, mate?
Yeah, all good, mate. How's things?
Yep, very good, mate. Very good. I mean, as good as it can get when Australia, they let you down. They didn't let me down, but they lured me in. Let's just say that, and then they stabbed me right in the heart. So
classic
I think I woke up the whole
scoring
suburb
too early
at 5 a.m.
Classic case of scoring too
All
early.
my neighbours. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, mate. And at the bottom of your screen, Paul from Feinting The Line. How are you, mate?
How's it going, guys?
Good to have you back on, and good to have you on watching too, Jarnell. Evening to you. Let's keep things ticking along here. Any thoughts? Any thoughts, Neel, on today's games? It was, some shocking results to say the least. Arguably the biggest. I don't know if it is technically the biggest upset in World Cup history, with Argentina losing in terms of the betting odds. But I obviously missed the game, mate. It was on a bit too, in the middle of the night for me. But how was it?
Yeah, that was the only one I actually managed to watch properly today. I just kind of caught bits of the other two games. Yeah, it was a huge shock. But I think if anyone who didn't watch the game,
oh, have we lost Neel? We could have potentially lost Neel. What about your thoughts, Paul? I'll just get rid of Neel for a second until he comes back. How about yourself, mate? What did you think of the game?
Yeah, I mean, the first and the last one were a little bit more entertaining than those middle two, I'd say. Pretty obviously there. We get Neel back there?
Yeah, he's back. Yeah, I concur, mate. I woke up in the middle of the night and decided to chuck on Mexico versus Poland, and wow, that was a great way to get me back to sleep.
That one was Dross for sure. That was bad.
That was very, very bad. But yeah, Neel, you're in the middle of saying your thoughts on the Argentina game.
Muted.
Oh, you're muted now, mate. I think
Maybe
the
he might be
earphones,
out.
mate. You had headphones on before. Maybe you want to put those back on. All right. Let's just. Are you there, Neel? No, he's still not there. All right. Well, mate, Neel, I think you need to play around with your settings a little bit, and then we might be able to get you back. See if you can. No. All right, Paul. We'll just ignore Neel for now until he can sort himself out here. Yeah.
I'm accustomed to ignoring Neel, so we can go with that.
Mate. Any thoughts on today before you're rudely interrupted by Neel once again?
Yeah, I mean, just like we were saying before, how you kind of agreed there. I mean, those middle games I mean, I certainly expected Denmark to create a couple more opportunities than they did. I mean, they had that chance at the back post there to win the game. Couldn't get a touch on it, but I definitely expected them to create some more opportunities against Tunisia. Some of those young guys up front, they didn't seem like they had their legs under them or something. I I don't know. Those Tunisians seemed a lot more jacked up. I'll say that much. And that Argentinian game, I mean, that obviously that was crazy with the Saudis. I mean, I was amazed by that high line that they were playing. I mean, it's sort of their style. I'm not going to claim to be like an expert on them. I've seen a couple games before, but I mean, like they do play that like trappy back line, but I certainly didn't expect them to play that high of a line. And even the front lines, like the midfield and the wingers and things like that, were pushed up against Argentina. I mean, they played really bold, and that was impressive. So,
Yeah.
I mean, prizes for sure today.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Denmark bounce back, because when you look at their group, they've got, you would think, two other opponents, Australia and France, who are pretty happy to, or at least I would think France at least are going to be pretty happy to sit back most of the time and defend. I mean, considering France was sitting back against Australia early in today's game, I think they're going to be probably happy to do it against Denmark too. So they're certainly going to have to, work on their ability to break down a low block. So yeah, I mean, it's not the greatest signs for Denmark to start off the tournament, especially with the sides they've got coming in, like, the way that they'll probably play, you would think, quite similarly to Tunisia. Or I'll give
Yeah,
Neel another chance. Are you there, mate? No, I can't hear a thing he's saying. Nothing's coming through at all. Yeah, mate, you're gonna have to play around your settings wheel at the bottom of the screen, see if the audio is not coming out of the right places. Maybe just leave and come back. That could be a tactic too, mate. Let's try that, Neel. Yes. Sorry, Paul, you were saying?
no, anyway, yeah, we were just saying about Denmark. I mean, I have like a big futures on them just to qualify out of the group. So like that was definitely shocking and not good result for that. Um, I'm just, it's now it's up to hoping the Tunisians can't pull a shock result there. I mean, it's especially against France, but the issue there becomes France. I think the Tunisians play Australia next, so really
Yeah.
France is not going to care about that last game against Tunisia. It becomes your issue
Yeah.
with that. And obviously that Tunisian price steamed in once everybody saw how kind of rock solid they were against Denmark today. So I think they're 2.2 now or something like that against the Australians. And so yeah, the Tunisians getting Australians next is definitely a good thing for them. If they win that game, then that Denmark to qualify is not looking great. So
Yeah, it'll be
anyways,
super
but yeah,
interesting.
yeah, but other day on the stream, although that one's not looking good from the podcast, we did give out Tyler Adams 19/1 to hit 6+ tackles. So that was a good one the other day, even though we kind of mixed results the other day, 3-3, I think, on the
Yeah.
one stream. So it was good though. And I mean, today's results were kind of crazy, but I'm interested to get into tomorrow's games kind of. And I think they're kind of like hard to break down, some of these matchups. Like I have a lot of plays in a couple of the games, and then like the other ones I just like I can't really read the game state, so it's hard to get some props or something like that in. And then the handicaps, I mean, it's tough to take a bigger bet on one of those unless you're pretty confident. So I mean, two of the games tomorrow I tend to like more than the others, so we'll see how we all go here.
Yeah, mate. Well, let's get started. Looking at the first game here, Morocco versus Croatia. Croatia come into the World Cup in great form, winning their past 5 games against the likes of Denmark twice, France, Austria, Saudi Arabia, which looks like a great win after today's performance. Morocco also in pretty good form, but they haven't really been playing the level of competition, so they're a bit harder to get a read on, given that they're playing, some of those African sides who, obviously not as proven as your Denmarks and France. So it's a little bit harder to get a read on them. Odds for this one: Morocco 3.88, the draw 3.21, and Croatia up to 2.21. Asian handicap sits at about 0.25 on either side, and the over-under is evens 2.0 flat. So, Neel, I will attempt to go to you firstly on this one. I haven't heard any sound coming out of you so far since you've come back in, so I'm not liking my chances. Oh, wait, there we go.
Is that right?
He's
Let's see.
back.
I'll just talk while I can, while it works. All this build up as well. Just like I'm not going to say anything clearly insightful, but let's see. Yeah, I'm on Croatia to win the group anyway. For this group, I think they've got a very chance of doing so and kind of tipping Belgium. But I don't see, and also I think Morocco could be a kind of dark horse to qualify from this group. But again, I think that's at the expense of Belgium. I think the Croatians will have a little bit too much nous and experience. Morocco, the advantage they do have is that there's, they're going to have pretty much a home crowd. There's, a huge Moroccan expat community in Doha, so the stadium will be dominated by kind of crazy Moroccans. If anyone saw the Tunisia Denmark game today, it's going to be a pretty similar atmosphere. Which gives them perhaps a slight edge in that sense. But I just think that Croatian midfield, I think just the experience they have is just going to kind of prove a bit too much. So I've gone for Croatia on the handicap line, on the quarter handicap. So it'll be a half loss if they draw the game. But I do think Croatia sneak this. It might not be a kind of high scoring game. I think it could be kind of quite attritional. It really depends. But I mean, I like Morocco's chances. I know myself and Paul's not as keen on Morocco. I think they are a step above quality wise to this Tunisia squad at the moment. They've got kind of a lot of quality players across Europe. I don't. I'm not 100% sure if CX is going to be playing in the game tomorrow, but if he is or able to come on the bench again, you've got that kind of added quality, even though he hasn't necessarily been showing that for his club. But yeah, my pick would just be this kind of simple play in Croatia. Wouldn't put anyone just kind of backing them out on the outrights, or maybe kind of waiting in play. If it's a kind of tight 0-0 first half, you're going to get some kind of generous odds in Croatia just to kind of see it over the line.
Yeah. Well, they certainly have the form coming in. I was a little bit surprised by the price. I thought they would be a bit shorter given their form coming into the tournament. And, maybe Morocco are just really heavily rated. But it's, like I said, it's hard to get a read on them given they haven't played, great level of opposition. Are you in agreement with Neel here, Paul, or are you thinking that the market's got this right and Morocco are a decent threat to Croatia?
Well, I'll just say in favor of Neel. I mean, I don't have the same exact viewpoint, but just in favor of Neel there. If you're looking, if you think Croatia is the value and you're looking for an entry point on the Croatians, now's the time to be getting in. Like Morocco and the draw, the underdog sides have shortened.
Yeah.
A lot coming into this. So if you want to back Croatia, like certainly now's the time. I think Pinnacles are like 2.18 there. Personally, if I was going to back the game outright, which I'll take like a smaller play on, like just like a quarter unit or something like that. If you want to throw it out, I'll do like a draw at 3.25. It's short, like I said, it's shortened up a little bit from like 3. Pinnacle open a little bit shorter than everywhere else, but 3.4, 3.5 or something like that. And now it's 3.25 there at Pinnacle. I'd take that. I like the draw here for a few reasons. As you said, it's like a lower total, straddling the 2.25, kind of straddling those lines there on the over-under. And then you look at the sides, like Neel said, they both have, a couple good European talents throughout the pitch, although obviously Croatia's more talented in more areas of the pitch than Morocco. Like Morocco's pretty good down the wings and things like that. Croatia definitely has the advantage in the midfield. But yeah, I do like the draw there for a small play due to the low goal line, and then also it's the first kickoff, right? And so it's also the first game coming out of this group. And so you could see like it's going to be a tight group anyways, just based on the odds. So I think you could see like a somewhat of a tighter game, or even if one team nicks one, I think you could see the other team sitting in and just trying to stay in it, and then maybe nick one late for a 1-1 draw or 0-0 draw maybe. So, I mean, I do like the draw, and then just I had a bigger play there on the tackles if you're in the offshore world. Um, all the offshore books and a few of the screens actually have better prices, but Nasir Mazraoui, and again a pronunciation thing there, but uh, he's playing he'll be playing one of the right or left back spots for Morocco, probably the left back I would guess, and he should be getting Mario Pasalic, and Mazraoui's a pretty good tackle rate at the club, anyways. He hasn't played for the national team actually much, um, as far as I can remember. But so there's not much of a statistical history there. Maybe that's why we're getting such a good line. But all the European books have this way shorter. You're looking at 3+ or 4+ tackles on the main line. So I'd also hit the alts at 4+ at 4.9 and 5+ at 9. And I'd take 2+ down to 1.7 anywhere you can get it. A lot of World Cup odds out on a lot of different books right now. So yeah, Pasalic is a good runner. He gets dispossessed a lot. The heat maps are all pointing towards the deep corners for all the potential tackle action in this game. And so, yeah, I would definitely be looking towards Mazraoui for a few tackles in this one.
All right, nice. We've got differing opinions there. Paul likes the draw. Yeah, Pinnacle are around 3.25 at the moment. Maybe get some better odds elsewhere. And Neel likes the minus 0.25 on Croatia, which I believe it is around 1.85. So if the game did draw, Paul's would win, and Neel's would only lose half of your stake. So and the other half would be voided back to you. So, yeah, that will be an interesting game to kick off Group E, I believe, and the Belgium game is the last fixture of tomorrow. So, yeah, it'll be the first game in Group E, and yeah, maybe have an effect on the Belgium Canada game later in the day. Let's move on to Germany versus Japan. Germany 1.44. The draw's at 4.97, and then the Japan line's at 7.5. Asian handicap 1.25, and the over under is 2.75. Yeah, massive game here in Group F. I mean, just about every game in Group F is quite big, given they've got three big teams there: Germany, Japan, and Spain. But yeah, you would think Japan are going to need a result against at least one of Spain or Germany to have a sniff to get through the group stage. They're a great side. They just lack a bit of ruthlessness up front in front of goal. But the big thing is that a German side full of attacking weapons. Do we think, Paul, that they would be able to outscore a German side who seem to have much more talent up front?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll outscore them. I mean, this game is pretty perplexing to me. I really don't mind like the Japanese backline, but yeah, the Germans under Flick tend to be a ruthless force. So, um, yeah, it's tough. They've got so much, like I said, so much attacking talent. And that's the one thing. Some of these managers, the lineups that they've been, sometimes you can't guess them. Like even Denmark today, I know like sometimes they play five at the back, but you're playing Tunisia. Why not just play? You know what I mean? It's like they gave up chances with the five at the back, anyways, Denmark today, and they still didn't score a goal. Why would I mean, I would just tend to put the extra midfielder out there already or the extra attacker out there already. I don't think they had the need for three center backs today.
Mm-hmm.
But that type of thing's not going to happen with Germany, would be my point. Flick's going to have all the players, the effective guys out there. It's going to be that core Bayern squad, obviously Kimmich and the rest of those guys. So I mean, yeah, I tend to think the Germans probably find a way to get it done. I don't really have a point of entry on this game, if I'm being honest. The total's weird. Like I like the Japanese backline, but the Germans are going to push high all game, which is always going to allow maybe those longer balls in behind for a chance or two. And the Germans are always good for like 2 goals themselves, so you're getting a 2.75 total. I don't know. I think maybe the Japanese might try to keep it tight early.
Yeah.
Maybe a first half under 1. Got burned on that last time with England, but in the England game. But I mean, if the Japanese need a result and they want to come out and shut up shop early and maybe try to nick something late, would probably be more down their alley. I mean, I just can't see them outscoring the Germans. So I see it as the Japanese are going to stay in the game. I think they're going to probably tighten down the hatches in the first half. So maybe a first half under 1, but I'm not confident on anything enough to really put my money down here.
You would think Japan are going to have to be just, so ruthless in front of goal when they get an opportunity. Because, like you said, you would think that they'll sit back in this one, take the pressure of the Germans because they are so ruthless in attack, and then, try and catch them on the break or something like that. But I mean, this isn't, we're not talking about, I mean, I know it sounds stupid now, but like a Saudi Arabia or I'm trying to think of some of the, like an Iran, these kind of teams where we've expected the big team to really take it to them, the other team to sit back. Even if Japan does it in this, we're not talking about a Saudi Arabia or an Iran. We're talking about Japan, and they're a bloody good team. In any other group, they would potentially be second favorite to go through. So I look at this and think, I mean, first game, Germany. We've seen some of the other big teams how they've gone in their first game. The only one that's looked very good, you would say, would have to be England. I'm struggling to think of any other team that's looked great or above average, at least in their first game. You're getting 7.5 for Japan. I think that looks quite big for a decent team. Any thoughts on that, Neel?
Yeah, I mean, actually, something I shared with my members. I don't know if the odds are still there, but actually, for Japan to beat Spain kind of later on in the group, it was kind of an outlier. Um, and there's every chance maybe Spain by that point might have won 2 games, might have rested a few, and Japan need that win. It's definitely possible. I mean, listen, if Saudi Arabia can beat an Argentina side that went 33, 34 games unbeaten with the greatest player of all time, anything's possible. But I agree with Paul. I mean, the odds kind of there's nothing that kind of screams value in terms of the money line or even the unders overs. I think it could hit, but it could be a tight game. I think if there's an early goal, especially let's say an early Japan goal, I think the game could kind of explode into life pretty quickly, and it could become a goal fest. But if not, and again, we've seen already how some of the games do take a while. I think that they've been slow burners. The angle I was looking at, actually looking into the Saudi game, was the offsides. It's hard to kind of read too much into sort of the stats for Japan for this, because I mean some of their qualifying games, I think they won like 14-0 against Mongolia, and God knows what other dross they were playing in the first round of Asian qualifiers. But both sides do tend to average around two a game. And I expect, as Paul said as well, for Germany to push up quite high. I think Japan, again, they are, even though their coach is kind of considered quite conservative. Again, that they're probably the best chance is to kind of catch some of those sort of pacey German attackers in abundance, and kind of try and catch them out like how Saudi did today. They might take inspiration from that. So the line I found at Unibet was sorry, excuse me. Yeah, over 3.5 offsides, 1.75. I think that has a very decent chance of coming in. I think there could be at least 4 or 5. I mean, I can't even remember how many there were against Argentina in the first half today. It must have been at least. I mean, there were 4 disallowed goals for offsides, let alone however many. So that would be my look at it. Otherwise, in terms of the outrights, I'd want to kind of monitor what's happening in play, just to kind of see how the game's shaping up.
All right, mate. Well, yeah, let's move on. I think it's an interesting game. It seems like a Germany. I don't know. In my opinion, maybe a tad overrated here. It's hard to know. It also, I don't know what the update is on Japan in terms of their injuries too. I knew Tomiyasu, is quite a linchpin for them in defence. So maybe another thing to keep in mind and wait till lineups come out to see if he's okay, because he was having hamstring issues at Arsenal and didn't play. So, question here from Atta Akgun. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but he says, what do you think the best value bet of Germany, Japan? We'll have to go with Neel's. Over 3.5 offsides at 1.75 was his bet there. Paul not too keen either side there to make a big call, but I don't know. I think a little sprinkling on Japan wouldn't hurt you too much. Just a little appetizer to keep you watching the game. You never know with that German Defense League goals. So if they can't get through that deep block from Japan, if that is the way they set up, then you could see a little upset. But let's move on. The other big game in, or you might not call it a big game, but the other game in Group F there, Spain versus Costa Rica. Spain very, very short at 1.17. The draw 7.81. Costa Rica 22.08. Very similar odds here to the Argentinian game earlier today. Asian handicap is at 2 and the over-under at 2.75. We'll start with you, Neel, on this one. Bit of a narrative. Spain do love a slow start to a tournament, but they have been handed a nice leg up here in their first match against the worst team in the group. Are we expecting Spain to win with a low-scoring game here, or do you think they can put quite a few goals past Costa Rica? Given the importance of goal differential in such a tight group.
Yeah, I mean, of all the games tomorrow, this is the one I've kind of I wouldn't necessarily have a play on this one. It could be pretty tight. I mean, Costa Rica basically sort of rated as well. At least they were, maybe before everyone saw what Qatar were playing, right? They were rated as the sort of the lowest scoring team in the tournament. I think they kind of look like they're going to really struggle with this group. But Spain do, find it difficult to break teams down, who play, kind of entrenched in their own half. So, again, it kind of depends on that. Spain could end up winning this 5 or 6-0. It could be a kind of a tight 2-0. You could take kind of Spain to win 2-0, but you're not going to get amazing odds on that either. So I think that, I mean, how many games have we had so far? There's about 50 odd games left. I'm quite happy kind of sitting this one out, but I do know, I'm pretty sure like Paul has some good plays on the props angles for this. It's not something I've looked at, so it's probably one to hand over to him.
Paul?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, sorry, I had the mute on there for a minute. Yeah, I have like probably too many bets on this game. No, I'm just kidding. All good value. I think that this is definitely the matchup like where I'm seeing like more of an ability to read the game state in the game, no matter what the game line is. So like even if the game line's like what Neel's talking about, you could see Spain breaking it open. But listen, I mean, yeah, you could see Spain breaking it open mostly because this Costa Rican side is just they're not good. Okay, I've watched like all that South America, North America, Central America type teams, and like I mean they pull results because like the other teams in those types of regions aren't amazing either, and they play a very settled style and know what they're doing in parking the bus even against those types of teams. So they pull a lot of late results and things like that. The Costa Ricans do, like 1-0s or 0-0s against better teams, or 2-0s and things like that. Real late goals. So I mean, in that sense, maybe you could see the Spanish running it up because they're just not that great, the Costa Ricans. But the Spanish also have a tendency to leave it late, and to be in these either 0-0 or 1-0, 2-0 win type contests. They don't have a tendency to really break open backlines, and I mean, a lot of people are Jose Enrique fans. I mean, I don't know if he gets the best out of them, to be honest, for how much for how much talent that Spanish side has in this generation. For me, you're looking at a stalwart like Rodri in the midfield. For me, the best defensive midfielder in the world right now, probably, or one of them. So I just don't know if they get enough out of them. But one thing they will have is possession. And if you go to Canby book right now, you can get over 72.5 ball possession percentage at like 1.89 there. And actually, if you're like at an offshore or like in the States, there's a couple over 70.5 lines out there still. My members actually got over 70.5 at Canby, but I still really like the over 72.5. It still would be a heavy bet for me. The over 70.5 was a heavy bet for me at 1.83, but I really do like that 72.5 still. I'd take it up to like 74%. Still, you're probably getting an edge about to 74%. On an Asian over 74. So I do really like that. And here's the reason. Against non-friendlies, the last Costa Rican matchups, New Zealand, 67% possession. New Zealand.
Oh my God.
USA, 65%. El Salvador, 69%. Canada, on a red in the 34th minute, 68%. Jamaica,
Wow.
63%. Mexico, 72%. Mexico, 72%. Panama, 64%. You look at the opponents of the Spanish in their last games. A friendly versus Jordan, who only had 27%. Portugal, they held to 32% in a game that was basically tied for the whole match. Switzerland, 25%. Czech Republic, 24%. Switzerland, 34%. Czech Republic, 20%. Portugal, 40%. Ireland, 16%. And Albania, 18%. So you get the point. Ridiculous hit rates against European competition for Spanish possession. Ridiculous hit rates for low Costa Rican possession against CONCACAF opponents. I mean, it's a perfect recipe, I think, for a good heavy bet there on that line. I also, for similar reasons, like if you can't get to that one, I love Betfair. You're going to have to wait on Betfair because they do this thing where it's a bet still if the guy doesn't start, but he subs. So you're going to have to wait till you see that Eric Garcia and Pau Torres start at center back. But I like them both at 2.2 and 1.73 for 90 plus passes at the Flutter books. Again, you're going to have to wait for a lineup, but you can get that at Betfair or Paddy Power. Just make sure that they play center back and you can take those. And the 100+ line at the offshores is also good. You could take that one now at the offshores on those guys, 100+ passes for like evens at the offshores down to like 1.83. For similar reasons, like some of the European books have this line at like 140, like 130 passes, 140 passes for these guys. Yeah, and I'd see them getting near there, to be honest, no matter the score line, because the Costa Ricans are just going to sit in no matter what. It just is what it is. And the last guy I like there is Pedri for 65+ passes. Bet Victor's got it at 8 over 11. I'd take that down to 4 over 6. And Pedri 65 passes at the States and offshore books, you're getting a better price at like 1.86. So I also like that line.
I love it, mate. I love it. You come full of knowledge for this one. I mean, it's quite baffling to hear the contrasting styles in opponents there. Costa Rica's a bit of inability to maintain the ball against some pretty poor opposition there. So yeah, I think probably out of all the games you'll ever see this World Cup, I think we get the idea of what kind of game we're going to see tomorrow. Have you ever looked at any of the other markets, maybe like corners or anything that I guess favors Spain racking up the stats and Costa Rica sitting back?
No, I haven't, man. I mean, like if somebody wanted to touch a couple alt lines at those offshore sites I mentioned, I wouldn't like for the passes, like I wouldn't like oppose anybody. But I didn't look into the corners or anything like that too much, to be honest. I specialize like more in the passes and the tackles areas. And for the passes, you definitely need to have a sense of what the possession is going to be like, and definitely what the game state's going to be like, and the goal lines and all those things. So naturally looking for those passes bets kind of leads me to the possession stuff, and I just thought that line was a little bit outlandish there from Camby.
Yeah, of course. I think the line for corners looks like it's at about -5 there, obviously in favor of Spain. So, yeah, it'll be. You never know. It's hard to predict with corners too whether lots of possession amounts to corners or goal kicks. You never know. So.
Yeah, it's interesting because if they stick one in the back of the net, then you reckon, oh, well, then do they go running down towards that sideline anymore? It's interesting. Like I know the French racked up the corners today. I'm pretty sure. So, like obviously they had the lead and stuff like that. I think if you have like a general supremacy like that, then you also need to look at the wingers. Are they guys that are going to be like making those runs down towards the bylines? Like you have like an Mbappe or a Dembele against like those Aussie fullbacks. They're going to get to the bylines and like might get a corner. Hence the French rack up corners. So, yeah.
Nice, mate. Nice. All right, let's go to the next game. But just wanted to quickly shout out myself. Ada here has said that's the best pronunciation I've ever seen. Dude, thank you, which is something I will never receive for the rest of my life. If you look at some of the comments on some of the other videos for me on Trademate, especially that fella that we talked about, Neel. I can't remember his name, but
I said eat your words or something.
Yeah, that was it. I eat my words. BV Mark is back. Good to have you on, mate. He even gives a special mention to Neel. He says, evening, Neel. So one of your super fans, mate. The self-proclaimed professor. All right. Belgium versus Canada. Belgium 1.56. The draw 4.42 and Canada there at 6.21. Obviously, these odds can change, so I'm sorry if they have. Belgium seem to be, I would say, the least favoured side out of all the heavyweights of the competition. Maybe people don't even consider them heavyweights anymore, but they do seem to, just in terms of their victories, they do seem to beat up on the smaller teams. So I guess the biggest question here is, Paul, do we consider Canada to be a smaller team? They seem quite inconsistent with their results recently. This year, they've lost to Costa Rica, Honduras, Panama, but then they've beaten the likes of Japan and the USA. So, yeah, what's your read on Canada and whether you would consider them a side that Belgium could potentially beat up on?
As an American, I consider Canada a small team. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't think they're a great team, though, to be honest. And I think Estaquio's out. And, it's just like they have some talent, right? Like Jonathan David could score, obviously. You might have Davies flying around on that wing. I don't know exactly the case with his health. I did see, though, today that I think Estaquio is out. And if that's the case, it's like, I mean, then again, you're looking at the lineups with this Belgium team because you have somebody like Roberto Martinez. It's like pep roulette with him. Like you really don't know who he's going to chuck out there. And but listen, if you have a midfield of Yuri Tielemans and Kevin De Bruyne against a 40-year-old in the Canadian midfield, it's just like I just think they're going to overrun them right there. I mean, I don't love Belgium style. Under Roberto Martinez, I think they're too like passive, like and things like that. But like they spend too much time in their own half, really, for me. But I just see them outclassing Canada probably. I don't really have like an official play. I'm going to be honest for this one. But if you wanted to shoot something out there, I probably would be looking to get on side with the Belgians in some way. Maybe like a small first half 2.2 they come out firing or something. Yeah, so maybe if you want to sprinkle a little Belgium first half 2.2, that's maybe where I'd take it, but it's really not a game that I'm gonna have, like I said, anything official or too much money on. I'm really not sure. Like I said, it's a tight group. I really read that Morocco-Croatia game a little bit better. So it's just not something I'd probably get involved in. But You could see the Belgians thrashing them. Then again, like you could see Jonathan David in behind that Belgian defense pretty easily. I mean, one ball and you can kind of get past those guys, and Jonathan David can certainly finish them off. So,
Yeah.
I really don't have a strong play there.
What about you, Neil? Does the goals angle interest you at all? I think the line's at 2.75, which is pretty high for an opening group game, but we are talking about two sides who are not that strong in defense, and the likes of Belgium who love to score goals against lesser of opposition. So, any thoughts on that, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of slightly opposite take from me. I quite like Canada here at the prices. For would put you off a small take for a shock win. But I can see it potentially playing out like the Saudi Argentina game again. Belgium, getting a lot of chances, probably maybe not being able to put them away. Again, factoring in no Lukaku, and that back three is a worry for them. Again, they're all playing in Belgium now, all kind of 34, 35. Susceptible to that kind of pace, the ball over the top, just a bit of direct play, and I think Herdman as well is a kind of smart coach, like I mean, football would know in terms of sort of the actual games themselves, because I didn't watch them. All I can pick up on is the results, but the fact that Canada kind of stormed through CONCACAF qualifying, maybe perhaps because Mexico and the US were just not up to form more than necessarily Canada being that strong. But that kind of achievement shows they can kind of go, and they had quite good results on the road as well. Again, so to me, I look kind of quite closely into the away results of teams in qualifying, just to see this is kind of unfamiliar territory in Qatar, neutral venues. To see how teams might set up in that sense. So if I was to go for something, I would go for Canada on the +1. Kind of covers Belgium to win it, but narrowly. There is slim potential of a draw. But I think Belgium kind of they're a concern in this tournament. A few people have tipped them up to go all the way to the final. I can't see that. I mean, I would love for them to do well in this tournament for that golden generation, but that defense is a real concern. And again, you are kind of relying on good quality. If it's Batshuayi up front, I don't even know if Mertens is going to start. And for De Bruyne to kind of have a moment of magic and pull the strings. Hazard, I think himself, I don't know if it was last week, has said he's not the same player he was. And you barely see him these days. So I think for me, I wouldn't be taking Belgium anywhere near that price, 1.56. I wouldn't want to take them on a -2, or a bigger handicap, because I don't necessarily think they're going to run up that huge scoreline. I think Canada are going to be well organised, and I think it's going to be a tough game for them.
Yeah,
I mean, sorry, Alex. I'll play devil's advocate here a little bit against Neil, just to make a market-based argument. I mean, like the Belgian backline is bad, but I mean this line opened at like 11s everywhere. I mean, the Belgians have shortened into like a -1 straddle, -0.75 handicap. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you look at it in the lens of we saw some shock results today. But for me, if I was going to be in on Canada, I don't know if it would have been right now. Maybe is what I'm saying. I guess I just don't like. Do you see the Canadians are a 5-1 shot right now? I mean, I don't know over under 2.5. I just don't see. I don't know. Like, even if the Canadians score one goal, do you see Belgium not scoring two?
I think potentially, yeah. I think potentially they could struggle. I think they haven't got their focal point. I think they do look a bit disjointed.
I guess part of
It's
that drift
possible,
is
yeah.
Lukaku to Lukaku too.
Mm.
I mean, that's definitely the focal point. I mean, that's a great point there, Neil. I mean, a lot of that market drift could be on the basis here that Lukaku isn't there to finish off a lot of the service. I mean, that's their area, Belgium. They can get a lot of service in there, but if Lukaku's
Yeah.
not there to finish
Although
it off,
actually,
it's not going to
on that
do that much
point,
for them.
yeah, I was going to say actually on that point, that reminds me in the Euros, I think it was, I can't remember if they were playing Russia, if Russia were in their group. They had a final group game where they kind of rotated quite heavily, where they had a few injuries and kind of the Belgian price kind of drifted out quite a bit. But they again was still kind of sufficient.
Oh no, he's gone again.
He kind of convinced me, honestly. I forgot about Lukaku a little bit there. I mean, that kind of aligns with the market a little bit. I mean, that was a very good argument there. I mean, yeah, it's just not. It's like I said, it's not really one I'd be betting anyways. But I mean, it is interesting, the odds. But
yeah, I was going to mention both teams to score. You can get that at 1.92 in a few places. If we're looking at two teams that, they're not too great defensively, I guess it depends on how would you guess?
I mean, I really think that's I wouldn't say that's the worst shout also, because like you're looking at like over 2.5 straddling over 2.7, like over 2.75 is 1.95. But you're getting both to score against a pretty tetchy Belgium backline, at a much better price. So
I think it wouldn't matter about really game state either. Like if Canada sat back, they've obviously got the pace to get in behind those slowest centre backs. If so, and I mean, if they both kind of went at it together, then they're both, going to be liable to shipping goals in that way too. So I think, if I was going to have a bet, both teams to score it, I think you can get on the exchanges around 1.9. That could be the way to go heading into that game. Any thoughts on that, mate?
I would definitely cede the selection to you guys on this one. So I mean, if both, I mean, like I said though, just market wise, I mean, was that over 2.75? You got a shaky Belgian backline, and then like both to score is still only like the 1.9 at some places out there. It's like, I mean, that seems more logical probably as the way to go. So I mean, it sounds like a decent argument to me.
Yeah. Ada here has mentioned over 2.5 and both teams to score. I've got no idea what kind of price that would be. I assume it would be over evens, I'm guessing. But yeah, that could be a way to approach it too. Got some others that are sending in bets here. Dream Squad HD. He said Belgium or X and over 2.5 goals. I assume that means double chance Belgium and over 2.5 goals at 1.98. Yeah, that's also a pretty interesting angle. I think, I mean, it's hard to. I think it would be favoured for both teams to score, which it is on the market already. But you've obviously got the vig there, so. But yeah, I think we've given enough options there for the game, Belgium versus Canada tomorrow. Yeah, lengthy discussion. You got both sides of the argument there, so at least people can make up their own mind. Let me see if Neel's completely gone or not. It seems like he is. If you can hear me, Neel, feel free to jump back on at any time if you want to give out your best bet for tomorrow, mate. But yourself, Paul, I assume you're going to be going with one of your bets in Spain versus Costa Rica.
Yep, that's for sure. You got me pegged, man. I'm definitely going with the possession bet in Spain, Costa Rica. That's over 72.5% possession it can be, or over 70.5 at the offshores, and then I'd take it to over 74. So yep, the possession bet in Spain, Costa Rica, Spain overs.
All right, good stuff, mate. For myself, there's nothing really tomorrow that really gets me too excited. I mean, maybe the Japan at the big odds. Both teams to score in Belgium versus Canada, but it's harder. It's a lot harder to get a read on these games compared to some of the other games we've had earlier in the tournament. So, maybe it's just going with the unders, which seems to be kind of the landing in a lot of these games, especially the more competitive games. Looking at your Morocco versus Croatia, Belgium versus Canada maybe is quite competitive. So maybe looking at your unders in some of these bets. So I'm really just floating out anything here just to see if one sticks. But
I think Neel probably would have given his offsides. So you could throw that one in there if you want to do that. Like I'd say he probably would give that one as his best bet, maybe. But yeah, as a game bet, I mean, yeah, I think it's tough sledding tomorrow, guys. I really don't have anything too sharp to offer there. I mean, like Alex said, maybe like the first half unders, or like a draw maybe in Morocco, Croatia or something.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff, mate. I think we've covered today very well. As always, we will be back tomorrow at the exact same time, straight after that last group game, which would be Belgium versus Canada. Tomorrow we've got Paul back once again, and George Gamble is back to preview tomorrow's games, which I would assume are the remaining group games in Group H and G. Is that right? That sounds right to me. Oh, yes, I think that's right. So the likes of Brazil are back in the forefront, which will be nice. But you can find our guests on Twitter at MyBetOrLife for Neel, and you can find Paul on Twitter at Feinting The Line. But outside of that, thanks everyone for tuning in once again. Make sure you're all back again live tomorrow at 9 p.m. UK time to preview the remaining group games there. But thanks for listening. Please make sure you do a quick rate and review of the podcast if this is your first time on the podcast, and subscribe to us wherever you are listening, either on YouTube there. Give us a thumbs up. But if you're looking to implement some of the strategies we talked about today on the podcast, more so the value betting ones, market-driven approaches to your betting, make sure you start a free week trial of Trademate Sports and start your value betting journey. Thanks for joining once again, Paul. And thank you, Neel, if you can hear me wherever you are out there with your crappy internet. And we'll see you tomorrow, mate.
See you tomorrow, guys.